Welcome to Wealth Chance Podcast. I'm here with another fire episode. I'm your host, Julius Hammond. We got a fire guest via virtual. It's a good buddy of mine. To who it is, I want you guys to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell because we got some future fire guests coming up that you do not want to miss on any of these episodes. Okay, so my next guest, he's a stroke. His business is called the Stroke Hacker. He's a stroke survivor, but he's also a great friend of mine. He's a part of my group called the Metal Men's Group, which is founded by our good buddy Ken Rotowski. Shout out to you, Ken. And I've been knowing Sean Entin here for a while, and we had some great conversations over the last few months. And I had to get him on Wealth Champs, so he's going to be a part of Wealth Champs family. So, ladies and gentlemen, Wealth Champs family, welcome Sean Entin to Wealth Champs. How you doing, brother?
Doing great. Well, thanks, buddy. That's a great intro.
Thank you.
You should be my agent.
Thank you. Well, Sean,
Appreciate it.
yeah. So, like I said, we've been knowing each other for a while, man, and we've been, we've had some good talks, and we get on different Zoom calls. Another one we get on is with Zen Warrior with our good buddy Sam Morris, and we kind of go over some stuff about that, the power of the mind and the body and how you put everything together. But for the ones who don't know you and who are not watching, who are watching but don't know your story, who is Sean and what is Sean Entin about?
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a guy who loves deeply and I'm a man who seeks the truth. And at the age of 40, my life was taken from me, and I had to learn to rebound and figure it out myself. The cause was from a stroke.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what was Sean? Okay, that's cool. But what was Sean's intents as far as like his growing up? Like, how was your family structure?
Okay.
How was, where you from? Things of that nature, so people can really
Sure.
know who you are.
Okay. I'm from LA. My dad was a doctor, OBGYN, so delivered 10,000 babies, and my life growing up was good. I had a great family. Mom was hard on me. Dad was a doctor. Really didn't know my dad much because he was always with another woman, delivering sports. But at the age of 18, I figured out what the word entrepreneur actually meant because I opened up my first business at 18, or actually it was 19, coming out of USC, and I got involved heavily into the world of being an entrepreneur. And I started doing this by introducing the world with a teen dance club. And people look at me and they go, "What does that even mean?" I rented this space out on a Sunday night to bring teenagers into the club, and really what I looked around was I saw an opportunity that I was going to disrupt this because all these kids were driving around looking for a place to go. So I rented a place here right in Encina, right in my neck of the woods in LA, and opened up the doors on a Sunday night. And my parents thought I was crazy.
Hmm.
Julius, they said, "You're nuts. What are you doing with the money you just worked so hard for?" And I remember renting out the place, took over the slowest night of this nightclub. They had a dance floor. And my dad and my mom said, "Don't do this. Do not do this. This is not going to work." Doors opened up at 8 p.m., Julius. I'm inside the club at 7:30. My dad comes running up to me. Of course, my parents had to come with me and oversee everything. Like, I really needed them around at that time. But they were great. Dad comes up to me and says, "Sean, we have a problem outside." I said, Dad, what's the problem?" "I'm setting up the DJ booth. I'm getting the music ready. I'm getting everything going inside." He goes, "Sean, there's over 600 people in line." "So what do you mean there's 600 people in line?" He goes, I said, "Dad, the club only holds 285
Wow.
or 385 it was." And so from there, I kind of learned what an entrepreneur was. I was taking the kids off the streets and into this nightclub. I was looking at it as a business opportunity. And back then, there was no social media. There was no internet. I literally built flyers. I created flyers, and I was handing out the flyers to local high schools, and it went everywhere. So it turns out I did one night. That first night was very successful. Came back a second night. This was during the summertime, and it got and the word of mouth that traveled all the way up to Lancaster, all the way down to Compton. And kids were coming in from northern San Diego, South Orange County, Santa Barbara, to come to my nightclub. And I realized, hey, I have an opportunity here that I really got to capture. And from at that moment at 18, I wanted to become an entrepreneur, and I learned how to promote. I learned how to promote and make connections, and that's what I did then. And then that led from doing teen dance clubs, opening up nightclubs and restaurants, and in my 20s, which I did not really like because I really didn't like dealing with alcohol and people. Even though it was fun, I had a great time. But I kind of learned early on, going to USC, studying entrepreneurship, that I really liked being an entrepreneur. I liked the freedom, and I knew I could figure out the game. It's really just about a game of how to make money and make it a win-win for everybody. And from there, my career then advanced to I had multiple careers. I managed Ultimate Fighters back in the day when the UFC was just starting out. I was the first one on the scene who were then getting into the UFC, into the cage to fight. So I traveled to Japan. I went to Abu Dhabi. And then I knew when I went to Japan, one of my clients, people, 90,000 people. And we didn't have this. This wasn't even a sport in the U.S. yet. But somehow I managed to find my way to Tokyo. I said, guys, this sport's going to come to the U.S. And when it does, it's going to be mind blowing. It's going to be as big as football, if not soccer. And I was right. And when it came to states and it got sanctioned, the UFC blew up. And that's kind of my trajectory of being an entrepreneur. And then in my late 30s, I got married. We had our first child, who's Savannah, who's now 16. And then we moved down to San Diego because I got an opportunity to get involved with two companies from startups. From literally 4 to 5 of us, I turned it into 20 to 30. Took both those companies from private to public. One of which was a tequila company, and my partner happened to be Shaquille O'Neal, as in Shaq. So Julius, I was being chaotic. I was always chasing a dollar, looking for the next big thing, and I wasn't taking care of myself. I was providing for my family and providing for the community, and what had happened was in San Diego, I'd become friends with some of the Navy SEALs, and they wanted to learn how to fight. They wanted to learn how to do close quarters fighting, MMA, jiu-jitsu, and box and whatnot. So I introduced them to some of the fighters I was working with, and in San Diego, who were still on tour. One was Dan Henderson, and one day during a routine exercise, I got caught in a chokehold where the carotid artery got dissected and sent clots up to my brain. 6 weeks post, I suffered a massive stroke.
Wow. That's we'll get into the stroke, how Stroke Hacker, and I'm pretty sure that's where the Stroke Hacker, became, from embryo stage from there. But let's rewind a little bit. So you being a DJ and open up all these different DJ, the clubs, I should say. What made you want to be a DJ in the club? Like, what was
I wasn't even a DJ. I hired the DJ. I was just a producer. I was just a promoter. I coordinated everyone to come in. Julius, I was dumb enough not to know what I was doing, and that's what I tell everybody, because I just figured out there was a niche.
Yeah.
My sister was a teenager at the time, and I watched them all drive up and down Ventura Boulevard and just get lost and hang out in front of 7-Elevens, pick up a pack of smokes and drink. And I was like, this is not going to happen, because they wanted a place to go. So I took over a restaurant in the San Fernando Valley they came running into my club because they wanted to be around other people. I hired off-duty LA police officers to kind of pat everyone down to make sure everything was safe. And it started growing. It grew so fast that the events the next couple of times led to the thousands of people. So I had to turn over people quickly, and then the LA Times came and approached me, and the Daily News at the time came and approached me, and they all wanted to do stories on me. And as that all started happening, it was great because we had no social media, there was no internet, there was no emails. This is 1993 or 94. I mean, so if you can think back in the time, I mean, it was all word of mouth and flyers.
Yes.
And in came a swarm of people, and I loved it. I loved it because parents would drop off their kids to me and said, "Hey, wait a second, I can bring my children to you for 4 hours, take my wife out for a date." I said, "Absolutely, give them to me." And at the time, I charged them $10. I thought I was rich. I said, "Okay, 1,000 people coming through at $10.
Oh, that's pretty good money.
This is great.
Yeah.
This is great. At 18, cash. And at the same time, I'm going to school at USC there's a major there, an emphasis called entrepreneurship. I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur meant. I didn't even know how to spell it.
Yeah.
But somehow I found my way into that school, into that program, and wrote my thesis paper on opening up nightclubs and restaurants and then other things. I kind of just got involved. I said I love being this person, and I just kind of found my own way with it.
And so initially, your intent was because you had your sister and her friend hanging out of a liquor store or some kind of store. You wanted to get them from off the streets to somewhere where it was a little bit more secure. That's the intent behind starting it at first, right? And it kind of blew up from there.
100%.
Wow.
100%.
Wow, you see how God works? Like, that's amazing how that even works, because your intent was even you probably just wanted something real small, real cozy, to where okay, I want to look out for my sister and her friend and anybody else that they know, and just to have a little space to where, like a boys and girls or something like that, right? But then it blew up to where not only you made money, but you were able to help others in different ways. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and then who shows up at my door? Because we didn't allow drugs and alcohol, but who shows up in my door is Snoop. And he smells like skunk, of course, and he was like, let me play. So I can't remember if he did or not, but I think he was in my club. He actually walked around my club and said, this is cool.
Wow.
And then once I hit that opened up my eyes to all this other stuff, because now I realized that, I was hitting a part of the world. And when he saw this, he said, you're doing good here. This is God's work. And that's what I remember.
Wow. And then, okay, so now let's go down the timeline. And then you said later on, let's go to the Ultimate Fighter thing, because I'm a UFC fan. You know, I know a lot of the fighters. My daughter follows them too. She's more into the new Ultimate Fighters and stuff like that. I know some of the older people. So the Chuck Liddell.
Yeah. So the older. Yeah. Okay. So Chuck and Tito were being managed at the time by Dana White. Dana White can no longer be a manager because he's now the president of the UFC.
Yeah.
So I was representing guys like Mark Kerr, Mark Coleman, Kevin Randleman from like the Midwest.
Okay.
People that I'm sure you know who that is.
Yes, I do.
Dan Hendo. And Dan ended up in San Diego. So when I was taking the Navy SEALs to go train, they learned mixed martial arts with Dan and Dan's people.
Mm-hmm.
So I met Dan on the losing bus in Tokyo, because and Dan sat next to me and we started a conversation. And Julius, I knew nothing about full contact fighting. I was never into martial arts, mixed martial arts, but I was eager to learn as much as I can about it, because I knew this sport would take off. And I was right, it did.
Yeah. Now, I was into it, but I didn't know how much it was going to take off, because I'm a boxing fan. I grew up, Tyson, Holyfield. I grew up in that area, right? And I'm a former boxer myself. I still kind of train every now and then and play football. So those are my two sports I grew up, playing and participating in, right? So, but what I love what Dana White did is he took over a section, a niche that was like no one was touching. And I was like, well, I saw a first UFC match, and I was like, this is like professional street fighting. Like, they just in there like bashing each other and stuff. I didn't think it was going to blow up the way it did, but Dana White is a genius, man, and all his his business partners and everybody, it blew up. It really did.
Yeah, it was 2 men enter, 1 man leaves. Yeah. That's what it was. It was the Gladiator, back in the day, and there weren't rules. People were showing up with gis. People were showing up with no gis. People were showing up with shoes on. I mean, it was like anything went. But once it got sanctioned, once it got legalized, and the commission set it forward, and I go back. I know Frank Shamrock. I worked with his dad, Bob Shamrock. Boss Rutan was a friend of mine. So these guys were all overseas making money in Pancreas, which is overseas, which no one really heard about at the time. And I knew eventually it would get here. So once it got here, I was in Dana's office saying, "Hey, you got to look to the internet to build this thing." And Dana was like, "I'm not ever going to the internet." And Dana also said to me, he's never going to have 2 women fight in the UFC. Look what happened now, right?
Exactly.
So it's like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's amazing. So, question number 2 is, this is going to now lead into, your stroke that you said that you had, when you were wrestling with the Navy SEAL, and you said it was an artery
The carotid artery,
carotid
yeah.
artery, okay, that went to your brain and ended up having a stroke. So, the question is, the stroke hacker was born in 2011, correct?
2012,
2012, okay,
13.
11, 12, okay,
Yeah,
13. When you
yeah.
suffered your massive stroke, what made you want to help others who suffered either a stroke or some sort of medical catastrophe? What made, instead of you just getting better yourself,
Right.
what made you want to,
Sure.
then, hey, you know what, I got better myself. I could have just focused on myself and get myself better. What made you want to now help people who's had strokes or other medical catastrophes that you're able to help with the stroke hacker?
Great question, buddy. So here's the bottom line. Here's what happened to me. So people understand the context. I was in peak physical shape. I was training with the SEALs, training with Dan Henderson,
Mm-hmm.
going to dance fights, hanging out with Shaquille O'Neal, traveling the world, doing everything I wanted to do. And like I was leading a life that was, in my eyes, was perfect, but I had no purpose
Mm.
because I just didn't understand that word. So what had happened was I was training one day in normal jujitsu. I got caught in what's called an ear choke. The carotid artery got severed, and I went home that night. You know, it's normal in jujitsu to either be submitted or to be choked out.
Mm.
And my dad's a doctor, and my wife at the time said maybe we should call a doctor, bring him to the ER. I was like, this is nothing. I've been bruised before.
Yeah.
You know, I got this handled. 6 weeks later, this carotid artery started sending clots to my brain.
Mm.
It was dissected. And I kept training, I kept running, I kept exercising, I kept traveling. I was going out with Dan's last tour when he fought Fedor in Chicago. I was in the corner for that one. I was in San Jose when he fought Choke Day in 2011. Black Friday on that night on Black Friday, I suffered a stroke on that morning.
Wow.
So I woke up. I thought the room was spinning because I drank too much wine with the family. We had the kids up in San Luis Obispo at the time, and I was living life. I drove from San Diego to San Luis Obispo to spend Thanksgiving with my friends, who's at the time happened to be my money manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up there to hang out with them. You know, Santa was coming into town. It was the holidays. We're going to go out there and just have a good time. I woke up in the middle of the night, and the room was spinning. And I said, maybe I'm just hungover. But I made myself to the bathroom. I felt like I had to throw up. I didn't. I looked in the mirror, and my face was ash gray. My left side was drooping, and I had no movement on my left arm.
Mm.
So when people think about stroke, there's something called FAST. Means arm, means, A means arm, S means speech, and T means timing.
Mm.
You have 4 hours to get what's called the declotting agent, which your wife got. It reduces the clot so that if it goes to the brain, it's a stroke. If the clot goes to the heart, it's a heart attack.
Yeah.
I was having a massive stroke. So they took me to one hospital in San Luis Obispo. They didn't know what to do with me. They called down to Santa Barbara, where there's a stroke center there, and there happened to be a neurosurgeon in the ER on Black Friday in Santa Barbara. He listens to this ER doc. He hears what's going on. He says, if you put him in an ambulance, he'll be DOA before he'll be dead on arrival. I'm sending you guys my helicopter.
Mm.
So a helicopter comes and picks me up. I get flown down to Santa Barbara. Within seconds, I make it. This guy performs a number of procedures on me. But what had happened was my brain was so badly swollen with lack of oxygen and lack of blood supply to my brain that it was literally coming out of my head. It was so badly bruised. And they tried to put me on ice first, and then they had to do what first, and then next, and then they had to. Nothing was working, Julius. Nothing was working. So he kept fighting for me because I kept fighting, and God wanted me to live.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened then is that he had to induce a coma, hoping that the swelling in my brain was going to decrease. That did not work either. So while I'm in the coma, I was continuing to die. My brain was still shutting off. So then he says to my family, he says, I have to perform what's called a craniectomy. A craniectomy means they had to take this piece of my skull off my head and put it back 5 days later. So he had to do that as well. And then when I woke up from the coma, I was fully paralyzed. I could not speak. I didn't know what an iPhone was. I didn't know what my name was. Nothing was working. And it was really tough.
How does somebody go through something like that? I mean, you had to mentally tough in order to endure all that. I mean, that's a lot for any person to go through. But what were you during that time? What were you thinking? Because I was told, I've never been in a coma or anything. My mother, she passed away from a cardiac arrest, but I was told that when someone's in a coma, they still, even though they might be dying or certain things are going on with them, they can still hear, they can still feel all that. So what are you thinking and feeling during those times? You're like, I just got to make it. I just got to make it because I got my kids. What was keeping you motivated to, instead of just saying, you know what, let me just give up and let me just go be with the Lord or whatever? What was
Yeah,
driving you?
great question. In my coma, I remember I couldn't see anybody, but I remember hearing everything. I remember them
Mm-hmm.
putting a feeding tube into me. I remember them cutting holes in my stomach because I was
Wow.
losing. I went from being 180 solid muscle, literally, as you know, peak condition down to 130
Yeah.
because I wasn't getting nourishment. So they had to put a feeding tube into me. I remember the doctors cutting me. I remember the nurses. I remember everything. But when I woke up, I couldn't recognize faces because all I could hear were sounds. So even in the coma, I was still awake, but I was still under.
Mm.
And then, when I came out of it, I realized, Julius, I don't have a, I don't have a choice. Well,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, am I allowed to swear on this podcast? Yes or
Absolutely.
no?
Absolutely. Of
Okay.
course.
I didn't have a fucking choice.
There
God
you
let
go.
me live, so I'm gonna live in my purpose.
There we go.
And what I realized early on, I did not want my kids seeing me in the chair, the wheelchair. I want to be able to walk them down the aisle. I want to be able to be a father. Inspiration are my daughters.
There you go.
End of story. Period. And plus, I wanted then. I knew I had to get better. The surgeons and the doctors were great, but the system coming back failed me. So along the journey back, I had to figure out, hey, there's MDs, there's the West, and those doctors are wonderful. But all the drugs that I was put on, all the many, many drugs from the paralytics, from the coma, and the SSRIs and the painkillers did not suit me.
Mm-hmm.
I had to figure out my own protocol. I had to figure out what chiropractors were doing, what healers were doing. What it didn't matter what it was, where it was coming. I knew I had to heal myself, and along the way, I built a protocol myself called the Stroke Hacker, and I put different things together. As you know, Julius, David Asperger's, who's one of our metal brothers,
Mm-hmm.
he's called the Biohacker.
Yes.
I had to learn what he was doing. I went down to his lab in Venice and said, "Show me what you're up to." So I kept searching and looking for answers that would best suit me. And as I did that, I started talking to the community and started to explain to people what I was doing. Like, for example, my chiropractor, one of my dearest friends, Dr. Jason Versland, he created Therabody, he created Theragut.
Mm-hmm.
So he is my chiropractor. So if he knows what he's doing with a vibrating percussor, then I need to use it on myself to help me with my own pain, my own spasticity, my own ability to wake up my body. And what I realized is when people say to you, you can't do this, you can't do that, within the first 18 months of your stroke, if you don't get it back, you'll never see it again. That's so fucking bullshit. I'm
Mm.
12 years out. I'm seeing movement all the time. I'm seeing my pecs are coming back. My abs are coming back. I'm seeing tries, buys, fingers are starting to fire, my legs starting to fire. I'm back in hot eight yoga again. I'm doing yoga for myself. I wanted to become independent. And what I think what happens is with people, they lose their independence. And to be dependent on someone else for a long time, it's tough. I want to learn how to drive. I want to learn how to make a meal. I want how to hug my children, how to be with my kids, how to be a father. So I had to create a mindset, and I call it the side door mindset, because I had to go through a different side of my brain to figure this out. And I had to come in with conviction. God played a huge part with all of it, but that's a whole nother podcast because that's another separate subject. But Julius, it's the same thing that I look at the universe and the divine now.
Mm-hmm.
God brought you and I together to talk about this because my goal is to create one smile every day on one person, just one smile, and let that ripple. And
Wow.
then I may have some challenges still, but I still show up.
There you go.
And if people can just show up and keep learning and keep figuring it out, you will get better. Your trauma is only there. Is only there for a short moment. You have to keep working at it.
Pain is temporary, and as long as you progress every day, everything's going to take. God's going to take care of everything else. You know, what I mean, one of my sayings is, "Faith without works is dead." You have faith, you put it in work, let God manifest everything else. You know, what I mean, you can only plant the seed in the soil and give it water, but God manifests the apple tree or the bamboo tree or whatever it is, right? But our job is to keep giving the irrigation. Our job is to keep showing up every day, keep progressing, keep working, keep being diligent, keep being faithful in all of our dealings, and God will handle the rest. That was actually great that you answered because you asked. I was going to ask you that question next about do you ever regain full autonomy over your face, over your arm, whatever the case may be. But you answered that question, so um, challenges. But do you ever gain full strength, or you will always have those challenges for the ones who, in case that happens to somebody else later on down the line.
Different. Yeah, I may have some weaknesses on my left side, but they're getting stronger. They're getting better. Am I going to get in the boxing ring with you right now and go at it? No, hell no. A couple of years, you and I will tangle for sure. I'd love to.
It's all good.
But that's my mentality. Is like, if not right now, someday soon.
Yeah.
Because why not? My friends are all black belts in jiu-jitsu, and they're ready. Like Dan says to me all the time, he goes, "When are you going to come down here and roll with me?" I said, "I will eventually, and I'm going to take that belt from you."
There you go.
He's Dan Henderson. Why? Why not? It's like why not?
Yeah.
I'm more powerful now than I was before, even the best shape of my life. Because having all the money in the world's great, but if you're left paralyzed, you can't use any of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I tell everybody. My grandfather said this quote. He said, "You cried when you had no shoes until you met a man who had no feet."
Yep, I remember that quote. I heard that quote before. Okay, so I want Jay, when you get a chance, throw up the first picture. You're gonna obviously what these pictures are, Sean. They're
Sure.
from your website, but throw up. No, not that picture. That's a handsome man right there too. But yes, this picture right here. Tell them because this is obviously during your rehab session and things like that. What are you going through when you're going through something like this for someone who may could have a stroke or who's had a stroke and is like, you know what, I don't know if I can do this. Let them know hey, this is what I'm going through. What's the process like?
Okay, so I built my own lab inside my house, my own biohacking, my own neurohacking facility. So I have what you see there in that picture is I'm on the Livo-2. So that Livo-2, actually Dave Asprey had inside of his upgrade labs down in Venice.
Yeah.
I met the CEO. He sent me a unit. I said, let me validate this. Let me try it. And it's been 5 years. I have the most hours ever recorded on the Livo-2. And what it does, you ever hear train high and live low?
Yes.
Okay, so that takes me to 10,000 feet in altitude, and then going to drop me right back down to sea level.
Mm-hmm.
And then come back down to sea level. So what that does, it maxes my VO2 exchange, which means, in basic terms, it super any kind of pain or bruising. Oxygenation is the best source of healing the body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so important that I hit that machine at least 3 days a week. While I do that, I might be having a trainer who's working out my muscles with a Theragun. So I have a combination of things I do. Now from there, I moved on to, I've got a rowing machine in here. I can use now use the rowing machine. I moved over to hot yoga. I'm always going to outpace and outdo. I'll never plateau ever.
Mm-hmm.
I think when people get comfortable, they're going to die. Mm-hmm. And I find there's times to take rest and to sleep. And the one thing I will tell everybody in the beginning of your journey back from the brain injury, you need time to heal your body, and sleep is so important. Because if you just go out there and you get it, like me, you'll run yourself into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that too. I tried everything. So I figure out what products work for me, and when they do work for me, people usually send them to me. I try them, and then I'm gonna talk about it. I validate them, then I end up becoming an ambassador, or then I'll sell them. But everything I do, I validate it through myself first.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, touch on the Stroke Hacker, the program. Case in point, say I have a stroke, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I find you on the internet, or someone refers you to me,
Mm-hmm.
and what am I expecting as a stroke victim now, and who's recovering? What's the steps that I need to take? Now, obviously, you have coaching and website for that, but
Sure.
just kind of give them the bullet points on what to expect.
Right. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to look at them. I'm going to talk with them. But most important, Julius, is I'm talking with their caregiver or their care partner.
Mm.
Them, because most of the time that stroke survivor is not going to find me. Their caregiver will, because the caregiver gets burned out. They get anxiety. They get overload.
Yeah.
It's chaos for the whole family. So what I do is we have a couple of meetings. I assess the situation. Which side of the stroke of the brain did it happen? Was it left side or right side? Which part is affecting them? And I can geek out and figure out, okay, they have memory issues, so that's hippocampus. They have speaking issues, which is probably the amygdala.
Okay.
Then is it what is not firing and what is? And really, Julius, it's as simple as them getting to believe in me and recreating their mindset so they believe in themselves. Because I think a stroke is nothing less than a really good mindset and believing that you can make the comeback. And that's with anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's with a broken leg, or I've got clients who lost their vision. And the first thing I say, easy. But now one kid's back to school, is getting straight A's. He met a girl. He's back to playing basketball. A lot of people lose something and they think their life is over.
Yeah.
The brain and the body can regrow. Sam Morris. I mean, I have other friends of mine who's blind who climbed up Mount Everest. I mean, we're if you can't use a certain part of your body, use what you can use, and that's part of what we do with treatment. And I get results. So I usually sign them up for like a 3-month tour with me.
Okay.
And at the end of the 3 months, or at the end of that 10 sessions, they're back to living in their dream. Because a lot of people are just beat up. They just don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a story that you told when we were having dinner at the Emporium Thai. Shout out to Emporium Thai. Listen, if you guys want sidebar, if you guys want the best Thai food in the nation in Los Angeles, Emporium Thai. Make sure I say the name right. Make sure you guys check that out in Los Angeles. But what was my question? There was the story that you told me when we were at Emporium Thai with the football player. I think that's a good I think that's a good story.
James.
Yeah, man. I think the people need to hear
James
that
Campbell.
because an actual real story your story is real. Obviously, everything's real, but a young guy at that, who had a stroke or had some issues, and then go ahead and tell the story. I'm a butcher.
Okay, sure. So James is a client of mine who I speak about his story all the time.
Yeah.
James Campbell is his name. Coming out of high school, he's probably one of the best quarterbacks coming out of Colorado. And we all know that Colorado's got some football. He not only played quarterback on his team, he was also all state wrestler. So he wrestled and he played quarterback. This guy was like the perfect specimen to play on Sundays. He's going out to play for the Buffaloes in Colorado. And 2 years ago or 3 years ago, he had a clot that went to his spinal cord. A clot to the brain is a stroke. A clot to the heart's a heart attack. A clot to the spinal cord is a spinal stroke. So he got hit here. So basically from here on down, he's paralyzed. And he does not have use of his legs right now. And he has limited use of his arms. But he still goes and gets it. He still plays rugby. He DJs. He shows up. He's speaking. He went back to school to get, I think, his master's in business. Very, very smart guy. And my whole goal with James is I don't need his legs right now to work. I really don't. He wants his legs to come back, but I don't need them. He's more powerful in that wheelchair than he is standing and running across the football field. And this guy ran a 4.6. That's pretty fast, Julius,
yeah,
right?
That's pretty fast for a quarterback, yeah.
At 6'2", that's a fucking beast.
Yeah, that's pretty fast for a quarterback.
I'm sorry, I don't care if you're on defense. You're gonna think twice before you hit that guy. And this guy's fast and he's got a gun he's got a gun.
Yeah.
So he was attacking the ball. He was supposed to play on Sundays, and he didn't. But now he's playing on different. Now he's playing in a whole different league. And what I've taught him, when he's taught me, is really you can do anything you want. You can accomplish anything you need to do in wherever you're at. If you just believe yourself, you can do it. So a lot of the times I find these young men or my clients find me because they have to have some fight in them. If there's no fight left, I can't help you.
Can't help you.
You have to want to meet me. You got to at least suit up and walk on that field. If you're going to sit in the sidelines and eat popcorn and drink a beer or have a Coca-Cola, you're not my client. If you want to go after it and you want to get it, then let's show up and let's play.
That's an awesome story, man. When you first told me that, I was like, wow, that's amazing. Go. I play football, and I never thought, growing up when you play, whether it's Pop Warner or AAU or to junior college,
Yeah.
and you never think about little injuries here and there, sprained ankle, maybe something broken or something that you can heal up, with after one season, that's fine. That's just part of the game. But you never think about a DeMar Hamlin situation. You never think about now Bronny James, what happened with him as being
Yeah.
that young
Yeah.
and peak of it
Yeah.
and peak of their athletic,
Mhm.
age. You just never know. But like you said, it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. If you don't have the mindset and the grit to want to go after it and get it done, you can't help them. I tell people all that. I tell people, that in business as well. It's like you got to have the mindset. I can't help you until you really want to help yourself. It doesn't matter. I can't want it for you. You got to want it for
Mhm.
yourself. And when you show that and you really want it, because everything is in the brain. Like my brain is telling my arm to move like this. People don't even understand. Everything's commuting from the brain to all your other body
Yeah.
parts, right? Um,
Yeah.
Next question. What are some of the things that are easy for you to do? Now, this is you personally. What are some of the things that are easy for you to do, and what are the most difficult after a stroke?
Wow. Big question. I look at life as being much easier now post my stroke
Mm,
than even before because what barriers are there? I've already been through them all. Now, am I going to go run a 4.640? No. Am I do, am I able to walk around? Yeah. Do I limp a little bit? Sure. Am I going to ever run again? I don't know. I don't care if I ever run again. I don't need to run. Am I going to climb Everest? I don't think I want to climb Everest.
there you
Do
go.
I want to go sit front row with you and watch Dan Henderson fight again, or watch another fighter? We could.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's choices I make, and it's back to what we are talking about before with James,
Yeah.
or what I really share with you is what's in the Bible. Is what I want people to get is at the educate people, we mentor people, and we teach people from our vision and from God's vision, and it's up to them to make the choice. Life's all about a choice. It's either you're going to go get it or you're not going to get it. In my situation, I didn't know what life was until I experienced enough pain.
Mm. Now, same question, but you're a very strong minded individual, and I know that about you from being around you and talking to you. You're very strong minded. But let's talk about some same question I just asked you. But they might be they might have a strong mind, but they're not a Julius or a Sean. Like no matter what, I'm fearless. For me, I can get shot in the head tonight, God forbid, but I'm going to hang in there, and my mind is that strong to where it's like, you know what, if I'm God, let me live. If I'm supposed to die, then take me. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to take out myself. I'm not going to not fight. I'm a fighter. That's just how I am. I grew up that way, right? My grandfather being in the Navy, my uncles being both football players and things like that. So I grew up in a family structure that are tough men, alpha males. Like that's just me, right? But I know that there are other people out there who aren't as strong as myself or you. So for someone who does have maybe a strong mind, but they're not as strong as a Sean or Julius. Same question. What are some of the easiest things and some of the most difficult things to do after a stroke or some kind of health ailment that leads up to something like that? What are some of the easiest and strong and most difficult things for someone who's not as strong?
Sure. Okay. What we're going to do first of all is I'm going to lean into them and I'm going to tell them I love them
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to show them how to love themselves.
There
I
you
want
go.
them to lead with their heart and not their brain. I want to tap into their heart because if you can tap into the heart, you're going to release serotonin in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Cortisol is what makes people go crazy. It's the adrenaline. It's the fight, flight, or freeze method. Most people are so caught in fight and flight because their nervous system is damaged. I want to slow them down. I want to get them to a place of just being in flow and a place of zen. And once I get them there, then when I want to get them to find their light themselves. And I'm pretty good at doing that. But it's causing everything to slow down and stop. And their world has already been rocked already, and they're coming to me because they're out of options.
Mm-hmm.
They're out of options. They've tried everything; it's not working. So they can either continue to live this life and be pretty depressed and be pretty upset, miserable, and angry and play victim, or they can choose to come with me and I'm going to show them how to get where they want to be. And most of the time, Julius, it's like with James Campbell. What I'm doing with him is helping him to find his purpose, because now he wants to, instead of him saying why me, I'm now teaching him to say why not me. So he's going to go ahead and give his thoughts and his coaching to somebody else who's going through the same thing he went through.
Mindset is a hell of a drug, and you gotta have that mindset. And you really get it by hanging around the right people, by reading books, by having just having that mindset, and also renewing your mind daily spiritually. When you understand it's a spiritual battle at the end of the day, your mind really shift from why me businesses or webinars or speaking things that you
Uh,
do to help people.
the best thing to do is follow me on strokehacker.com. I'm on all the socials. They're just picking me. Listen, I'm new to the social world. I was taken out of the game for a while because I was so focused on getting my mind and my body back. So now my teams are doing that. But I tell everybody, your brain will try to kill you. Don't go there. Your mind's always going to try to protect you. Take that leap of faith. Take one step at a time, and eventually you're going to get to where you want to be. And that's really it. It's just baby steps to make the comeback from anything. And like you said, Julius, you lived in a family of military and Navy.
Mm-hmm.
The Navy, I have so much honor and respect for our military, and I miss the community in San Diego so much. But also, too, surround yourself with people who are positive. Get away from those people who are so pessimistic. Get away from Aunt Sally, who's telling you everything about his stroke, because she knows all the tricks and trades about everything. Find people who know more than you in areas that you don't know. That's why I'm called the stroke hacker, because I earned it.
Mm-hmm.
I know about traumatic brain injury. If I'm gonna go buy and sell real estate, or if I'm gonna need to rent a car, Julius, I'm calling you.
There you go.
But also too, at the end of the day, Julius, if I'm having a moment, which I do, I'm gonna call you, and I know you're gonna be there for me to lean in and say, hey, I'll work through this with you, brother.
There you go.
And that's what you really need. You really need to be able to find a group of people, find a community of people, and that's why we have Metal, and that people are there to listen to you, not judge you, not tell you what's wrong, not tell you what's right, but love you for who you are, so you can love yourself. Because so many people out there are not for this. They're going to say your life's over. Oh my God, this is so bad. This is terrible. Hey, when people say to me, I tell everybody, don't feel bad for me. You can have compassion, you have empathy, but hey, join me on this wild ride of life, because I'm loving my life.
Wow, amazing. I love your mindset. This is why God don't make no mistakes, man. This is why I came a part of Meadow to be a part of individuals like yourself. Listen, and you couldn't even tell by talking to you on the Zoom here. I couldn't even tell, because your mindset is like, okay, I had a stroke, so what? Next, it's not the end of the world. Like, now let me get to my purpose to be able to help others who's had strokes or any type of health catastrophes, and let me help them get out of their situation, because I've been through it. I love that. I love that. And this is what your inner circle is about. You got to have an inner circle of people who are like yourself, like myself, like Kens of the world, the Sam Morrisons and all them. We've been through things that probably 90% of people haven't been. Like, everybody goes through stuff, but really go through it and come out, smelling like roses after going through life or going through a shitty let me help you get through that as well, and understand that for pleasure, you'll experience the joyful side of life now, because you've been through the painful side.
Julius, let me say something to you carefully, and I want you to hear me. This podcast is so important, because this podcast is the future of our children's children. What you are doing
Thank you.
is being a cause for transformation for not just us right now, but for our great grandchildren someday.
Thank you.
And that's why I love what you're doing, because you are such an upbeat person, and you're saying things and you're voicing the words from God or from yourself. We need more of more of you in this world, so we can all live a better life. Because it's hard. Life throws you curveballs. You get it.
Mm-hmm.
I know where you grew up. I know where I grew up, and it's I know what I've been through. I know what you've been through. But the point is, we've come together now, and we're now here to take center stage to help others to activate hope for them so they can help activate hope for others because it's a viral effect. It's a ripple effect. So thank you for doing what you're doing. And I love you, man. Beyond words.
Man, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That really touched my soul. It's I look at generational, and the way this world is, and the agendas. I won't get into that because we can talk about that all day. But all the agendas that they're pushing, it's our kids and our kids. My grandbabies. I don't have any now, but when I do, grandbabies are going to need. They should have a world where they can thrive in and not full of chaos and all that stuff, right? So I'm doing my part, being a vessel of God, to try to help and give back as much as I can to leave a legacy. So once I transition, I want, if I can, I want 4,000 or 5,000 people at my funeral, saying how much of a great man I was, their lives and their kids and their grandkids' lives and their futures. So that's what I'm here for. That's my purpose. And that's the purpose of Wealth Champs, to build not only financial wealth, but mentalism, spirituality, health, building sound relationships that we've done. And we touching on all those different components of wealth. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Sean.
I love that. Hey, Julius, I want to know you when you turn 50.
There you go.
I want you to see yourself as you see yourself now, but how do you see yourself at the age of 50? And that's where you want to be. Is this podcast in front of 100 million people? Is it in front of 1 billion people? I want it to be in front of as many people as you can possibly do, because I'm on your train. I'm on your joyride. I'm here to help you as you're here to help me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So before I let you go, Sean, so you were a USC Trojan, so you went to USC. So obviously I'm from that area. I stayed on Washington and Western. Yes, Trojan fight, right? So what made you go to USC of all schools? Because you're a very intelligent, smart individual. So what made you go to USC?
Well, thank you. Well, my dad went there. So
Okay.
My dad was going to medical school there. When I was 4 years old, my dad was taking me to games.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about football. I'm 4 years old, but all I knew is that we're parking down where you live and walking in the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember those walks. But I was with my dad sitting in the top seats because we couldn't afford anything at the time. He got seats that were given to him. I think we probably sat in the very, very top row, but I loved every minute of it. And I didn't understand what the game was. However, as I grew up from 4 years old on, I've always watched USC football because my dad was a huge fan. I'm a huge Trojan. And then when I went to school there, it's all me. Season starts next week. So it's in my blood.
So,
and I just yeah.
No, okay. So who was? So what year did you go there? Because I can when you give me a year, I can picture the
90, 92, 93, 94, and 95.
Okay, so it wasn't O.J. Simpson. He was gone already. So
no, it was Mironovich.
Oh
I
yes.
forgot his name.
Okay. What are you talking about? Okay.
Yeah. No, it was. I'm sorry. It was Rob Johnson and Keyshawn.
Keyshawn Johnson. There you go.
Keyshawn was there with
Keyshawn
me.
was one of the best wide receivers to come out of college.
Keyshawn was right there with me. I mean, it was it was it was Johnson and Johnson, and I forgot a list of other guys way back in the day. That's when USC was just brutally mean.
Yes.
You walked on our field. We're gonna fucking hurt you.
There you go.
Back in the day, I was friends with Junior Seau. Junior used to tell me how he used to hit people. He would leave his feet and spare them.
Yeah.
This guy's 6'6", 260. So I mean, his my waist is not even as big as his arms. This guy was a machine, and he had his own problems with CTE that we can go into another time. But yeah, I love Junior. He was an amazing individual, but he the sport got him.
Yeah,
sport got him because we didn't know any better then. But yeah, I Willie McGinnis was on the squad. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, I know Willie. Yeah.
Yeah, Willie's great. He's a big boy. He's a big boy.
Yeah. Willie McGinnis. I used to referee after I stopped playing. I used to referee for about 10 years, and I refereed Snoop's football league, and Willie McGinnis is one of the coaches. Yeah, so I met Willie McGinnis in person. He's a big dude. He's like 6'4", 6'5", very stocky. It's like, dude, I'm looking like I got hit by some big guys before, but never that big. You know, I was like, if
Right.
I got hit by
Yeah.
him, I don't
Yeah.
know if I would,
Yeah.
you know, come back from off the
Right.
ground. But yeah,
Right. Right.
Jay, put
Right.
up the last picture here before we go. With the couple, I
Yeah.
can, I
Yeah. My
shall,
client.
I
Yeah.
will. Tell.
Yeah. That's my client. Yeah. That's my client who took my tattoo and put my mantra on his forearm.
Yes. Tell
That's
people,
Tony Bidet.
tell people about that mantra and what that means to you.
Okay. Oh, sure. So it just means I can, I shall, I will. There's no way out. You're going to keep moving forward. There's no tries. There's no maybes. There's no someday. There's no tomorrow. There's just the now. And when I met Tony, he was in his late 40s, early 50s. And he was the number one recruiter for a huge bank in Washington. He found me on Facebook. I was walking on a football field, walking from end zone to end zone, showing people what's possible. I called it at the time running. I'm back on the field running. He found that clip of me on Facebook and reached out to me, and I started coaching him back, and I got him back to working again, back to being a lot of things. And he was one of the first people I've ever helped. And I didn't know what I was doing because I was just working through it myself. But now from him, I created a system. But Tony is a dear friend. We've never met in person. And I just heard recently he's going to go ahead and put Stroke Hacker on his other wrist. He's asked me if I'm going to get any tattoos. And I say to him, I'm scared of needles. So I've had enough. I've had enough needles on my body. I'm not afraid of needles. But yeah, there's a lot of people who've done that already. And there's a few others out there. But you know what? I touched his soul and he moved forward with it and he touched others. I love that. It's all part of God's work.
And you know what I love? You just said something that's very, very eye-catching to me. You said, Tony, you've never met him. And he's putting tattoos of Stroke Hacker and your mantra and your motto on his arm. That's impactful. You never met the guy. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
It's part of what we do. And it's like, Julius, everyone says, what happened to all the wealth I used to have? I said, all the wealth I used to have is put in this body and this mind.
Yeah.
I mean, more because I have 6 houses and 4 boats and this many, cars are good. I know you love cars, but I don't need much. My life is minimal.
It's material. All that's material. Yeah.
It's material. And listen, I love money. You love money. Money's needed, but I focus my energies back on the walking again. And I tell the people, what's the cost to walk? It's priceless. Insurance run out on me. Money, investing in myself, and as I invest in myself, I start sharing with the world what's working for me, and that's helped out like people like Tony as well.
Wow, amazing. Well, thank you for joining Cam's podcast, man. Welcome to the family. Thank you for all the nuggets that you gave. Your story is impactful and it's going to inspire a lot of people. One last time, where can everybody find you? Social medias, your website, all that stuff before we get out of here.
Strokehacker.com. STROKEHACKER. Strokehacker.com.
Well,
and
Sean,
if you hit me up, I will respond to you.
There you go.
And Julius, I'm going to ask you a question. Who loves you?
Everybody. Jesus, you do.
I do. Right now, in this moment, I love you, and never forget that.
I appreciate it,
man. And tomorrow and the next day.
I love you too, bro. I appreciate that, man. And you know what? It's funny that you say that because us as men, we should be able to say we love each other. Like my young engineer right here, he's a young guy. I tell him, hey, I love you, Jay. You know what I mean? Like, we should be able to say all that without any funny business or people thinking anything or whatever, right? So we don't us as men, we don't tell each other we love each other. You love each other enough. You know, women do it all the time. I love you, girl, or you're a queen, you're a boss, and all this stuff, right? But as men, we should be able to say, I love you, man. I love you with the love of the Lord, and I'm here for you. We these times because the way this world is going, we need men to really step up and be men. There's a lot of beta males.
Be vulnerable,
yes.
And be vulnerable, and be open, and be transparent.
Yeah.
You know, listen. I was married. I love women. You know, I'm dating. You know, you're married. It doesn't mean as men mean anything else. It means I love you as a person of God.
Yes.
I don't care if you're white, black, red, or whatever you're at.
There you go.
Because at the end of the day, we all piss, bleed, and shit the same way.
There you
We're
go.
all God's people. God wants us to do one. If we all just pray to love, which is God. Sure.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, Sean, thank you for your nuggets. Thank you for your time, man. I appreciate you. I know you got other things you got to do. It took a while for us to get together, but
It's
it was.
worth every moment.
There
And
you
let's do
go.
some more Thai food. Let's do some more food. We'll bring our kids
Absolutely.
next time.
Yes,
I'd love
absolutely. I'll
to.
bring my wife next time, and
And
she's feeling a lot better
I
too.
would love. I want to meet her because behind every good man's a great woman.
There you go. Well, thank you, Sean. I appreciate you for being a part of the Wealth
Thank
Chance
you, buddy.
family, my man.
My pleasure. Thanks, buddy. Let me know when this comes out.
All right, I got you. I got you. All right, you're welcome. All right, guys. Well, there it is, man. We had the wonderful Sean Entin on the podcast. His story is very impactful, very powerful. I mean, listen, he had a massive stroke, and he didn't let that stop him. His mind is strong. His body is getting stronger every day, and he has a company called Stroke Hacker, where he's helping individuals who have strokes or any type of medical catastrophe within that field, help them, get back to somewhat to where they were, but they might not they might not get back exactly when they want to be. But guess what? If your mind is strong enough, and with his vision and with his program, you can definitely make it happen. So till next time, I love you, I love you, I love you with the love of the Lord. See you, Wealth Chance family. Peace.